You know, I used to take absolutely everything at face value, but I've come to realize a pretty hard truth over the years. People rarely show you who they truly are. Instead, they show you a version of themselves specifically designed to be accepted.
But behind every smile, reaction, and decision, hidden emotions are often at work. Ego, envy, fear, insecurity, and the deep need for control. The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene reveals how to read these hidden patterns in others, and honestly, even harder, how to recognize them in yourself.
Think of this explainer as your ultimate codebook for human behavior. If you've ever felt completely blindsided by a coworker's sudden betrayal, or wondered why a close friend constantly makes these subtle, passive-aggressive digs at you, or even questioned why you sometimes act completely out of character, this is exactly where we find the answers. We're going to decode this secret language of human nature together so you can stop operating in the dark and start understanding what's actually driving the people around you.
Okay, let's jump right into our first major theme, behind the polite smile and the masks we wear.
Because from a really early age, we all learn a very harsh lesson. If we just blurt out exactly what we're thinking and show who we truly are all the time, we're going to end up offending pretty much everyone in our lives. So, what do? We become consummate actors. We project this mask to the world, displaying qualities like saintliness, progressive tolerance, humility, and what looks like total authenticity. But lurking right behind that mask is the reality. Our actual hidden desires, our deep insecurities, and sometimes pure antagonism. We literally learn to use the right words just to distract people from what's bubbling underneath the surface.
It's actually super fascinating that the word persona comes directly from the Latin word for mask. And Greene makes a great point here. Wearing this mask isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's a social necessity. It protects our vulnerabilities from people looking a little too closely. Look at the ancient Roman Emperor Augustus. The guy was an absolute master at this. He flawlessly played the role of a humble man of the people, speaking everyday Latin and living really simply, all while secretly hoarding total military control over the entire empire. He played his role so incredibly well that his dying words were literally, "Have I played my part in the farce of life well enough?"
So if literally everyone is walking around wearing a mask, how on earth do you see the reality? Well, that brings us to Section 2, reading the second language and developing our observational skills.
To protect yourself and truly understand what people intend to do, you've got to learn to read the cues that automatically leak out from behind their masks. Get this. It's estimated that over 65% of all human communication is completely nonverbal. 65%. Yet, we usually only pick up and internalize maybe 5% of that massive stream of information. Why? Because we're usually totally wrapped up in our own heads, intensely fixated on the words people are saying. But since we just established that words are often designed to conceal, missing that nonverbal data means you are quite literally operating blind in almost every interaction.
To fix this massive blind spot, you need to master something called visceral empathy. The famous psychiatrist Milton Erickson was a total genius at this. Instead of just analytically listening to the words coming out of a patient's mouth, you actually have to physically open up your senses. When someone is talking to you, pay deep attention to their feeling tone. Are their hand gestures and their posture actually matching their supposedly confident words? You don't just look at their facial expressions. You absorb their physical energy and register it from within yourself. It's a total game changer for how you connect with people.
The absolute key here is knowing exactly what to look for when you open your senses up like this. The three biggest categories of nonverbal cues to watch for: signs of dislike versus like, dominance versus submission, and deception. Now, a quick caveat on deception, because there is a scale here. Polite white lies, like someone saying they love your new shirt when they clearly don't. Honestly, just ignore those. Society runs smoothly on those little lies. But you must keep your radar highly tuned for those high-stakes moments. That's when someone's tone, their micro-expressions, and their body language completely betray the friendly words coming out of their mouth.
Which perfectly sets up our next hidden emotion, and it is a dangerous one. Section 3, beware the fragile ego and the law of envy.
Underneath it all, we share a deeply primal obsession with status. Just like chimpanzees in a group, we are constantly ranking ourselves, measuring our own self-worth against the respect and attention that other people are getting. And this constant, obsessive need to compare ourselves is exactly what breeds deep envy. Think about it. When someone feels inferior because of your sudden success, they rarely just admit it. Nobody likes to think of themselves as an envious person. Instead, that frustration twists into something highly toxic, leading to covert attacks, whispers of gossip, and active sabotage, which unfortunately usually comes from your own friends or professional peers.
So you absolutely have to know the warning signs of a fatal friend before they strike, because envy leaks out in very specific, recognizable ways.
Watch out for praise that feels strangely effusive, like it's entirely out of proportion for the situation. Be highly suspicious of subtle, mean-spirited little digs that are quickly brushed off and disguised as just joking. And pay close attention to anyone who seems physically uneasy, restless, or suddenly distant when you share good news. If you spot these red flags, deflect their envy immediately by taking the spotlight off yourself and shifting it onto them.
This deep insecurity about our status feeds right into our next theme. Section 4, the pull of conformity and losing our individuality.
Because we are so terrified of standing out and potentially losing our spot in the hierarchy, we feel immense pressure to just fit in when we're around others. To pull this off, we unconsciously start shaping our thoughts, our core beliefs, and even our physical appearances to match the group's orthodoxies. We adopt the exact same clothes, the same slang, the same talking points, all to signal to the rest of the group, hey, I'm safe, I'm just like you, I don't stand out too much. Without even realizing it, we literally surrender our own individuality just to survive socially.
Okay, up until now, we've been talking about reading everyone else, but it is time for Section 5, the mirror arc, where we confront our own dark side.
We have to turn the mirror inward because the laws of human nature apply to every single one of us. That baffling, sometimes deeply toxic stranger you've been analyzing in your coworkers and your friends, yeah, they are actually lurking inside you too. Psychologists call this the shadow, because we spend our entire lives following strict social codes. Trying to seem so nice, agreeable, and humble to the world, we naturally repress our darker desires, our aggressive impulses, and our raw ambition. But you cannot simply wish away the grain of your character. Playing the nice role for too long causes this repressed shadow to leak out, and it usually manifests in explosive fits of anger, sudden self-sabotage, or completely bizarre behavior when you're under extreme stress.
The brilliant playwright Henrik Ibsen captured this internal struggle so beautifully. He wrote, "To live is to war with trolls in heart and soul. To write is to sit in judgment on oneself." Basically, our whole existence is a constant fight against these dark forces inside us, and denying that they exist, that only makes them stronger and way more unpredictable.
The legendary psychologist Carl Jung warned us about this exact thing too. He noted, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. If you remain totally ignorant of the patterns established in your early years, if you deny that you even have an ego or aggressive impulses, your bad habits are only going to become more set in stone. You essentially become a passive slave to human nature, entirely controlled by forces you refuse to even acknowledge.
Which leaves us with this final, really crucial question to ponder. Are you ready to stop fighting the dark forces within and finally use them as your ally? Because once you become truly aware of your own shadow, once you realize you are far more complex and mysterious than that two-dimensional mask you wear for the world, you can actually harness that energy. You can master the laws of human nature instead of letting them master you. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I challenge you to start observing the world and yourself just a little more closely today.